This is Debbie, and welcome to another brand new episode of The Offbeat Life, where I speak to inspiring individuals who ditch the norm to live their best life and become location independent. To celebrate the week of love, I'm highlighting Devon and Rob, who are the men behind Dads, Not Daddies. Everyone's love story is unique, but what makes Devon and Rob's story a standout is their unconventional family. Before finding one another, Devon was married with 2 children and heavily involved in the Mormon community. Devon realized his true sexuality during his marriage, but saw his attraction to men as a temptation instead of his identity and tried to change himself. However, Devon knew that in order to be truly happy, he had to learn to accept himself. He and his wife decided they both needed to move on. Devon was newly divorced and a single dad when he met Rob online. After swiping right and several months of long-distance dating, they decided to begin their lives together in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today, they are both social media influencers who are heavily involved in the LGBTQ community, showing that even though no 2 families are the same, it doesn't matter what your families look like, it's all worth celebrating. I'm so happy to share Rob and Devon's story and continue to be inspired by their love story every single day. Listen on to find out why Rob and Devon's journey are so special. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this interview with Rob and Devon.
Hello.
How are you guys?
We're great.
Very tired.
Very tired.
New York City takes it out of you.
I am excited to be here, so I feel like it gives me life and energy being here.
It does. The busyness, right? I guess it depends on the person because some people don't like the busyness and then some people just like take that energy and you just work with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just ready to go.
It's really exciting. It's just draining. You know, like it's like a pace that I'm just not. Being from Utah, it's a little slower out there. So.
Yeah. So you both have a really interesting story. Can you tell us a little bit more about you both and why you live an offbeat life?
I'm Devon.
And I'm Rob.
Yeah. And we're known on Instagram and other forms of social media as Dads, Not Daddies.
I mean, specifically with what makes our life offbeat is the social media stuff. We started an Instagram account together about our family. Devon has 2 kids from his first marriage, and I'm stepdad. We shared our story on Facebook originally in reaction to some...
It was about 3 years ago.
Yeah,
in November.
In reaction to some things happening in the Mormon church, which we were both born and raised Mormon.
In Utah,
in
where
Utah,
we
go
live now.
figure.
Yeah.
So basically, long story short, the policy was that children of gay parents were not allowed to join the Mormon church.
Or be baptized.
Or be baptized,
Oh, wow.
specifically.
And
until they were 18. So
our kids still go to church with their mom.
Right.
And so that impacts us. A lot of people were wondering on social media, like, who does this even affect? What gay parents are going to take their kids to a Mormon church?
Yeah.
And so I posted about it, and it got a lot of attention, both positive and negative. We realized that, this is just photos of us have that kind of an impact, and,
Right.
and us, just sharing about our lives. So we then decided that we need to be putting more out there and help people to understand what it's like to be a gay parent and just understand our lives, because there's a lot of misunderstandings that people have about us. So that's why we started the Instagram account.
And then it exploded. And now it is something that we both do as not our only source of income, but one of our sources of income.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
our side job, you could say right now.
It's a side job for now, but is accelerating to a point where it will quickly not be a side job anymore. We're going to have to make it a full-time job.
Right.
And if you guys look at their Instagram account, oh my gosh, they're too good looking. Come on, this can't be real. Abs for days, and they're just gorgeous. So,
Thank you.
You're too nice.
I know. So take us back to the beginning of how you both even met. I mean, Rob, you came out already. You knew you were gay.
I knew I was attracted to men probably like in high school. But in terms of accepting what that actually means for my life and actively living truthfully. I came out when I was 26, I believe, so a little bit later, but didn't go through quite the process that you did of getting married and having children. So.
I took it a step or two further. I grew up very, very Mormon in southern Idaho on a farm, a potato farm, literally.
The stereotype.
The stereotype.
Literally, potato farm. And yeah, I did a mission. I went to Trinidad and Guyana on my mission, loved it, came home, went to BYU, married the first girl I met.
Literally.
Literally, yeah. A wonderful woman, and it really wasn't until I was married that my sexual identity began to be made clearer to me. Sure, I knew that I was attracted to men, but in the lens of Mormonism, I saw my attraction to men as a temptation and not an identity. Mm-hmm. So I saw it as something that I could change about myself.
A sin to overcome, essentially, right?
It was something that I had always just put in the far back of my mind, never acted on it, never had any way of really exploring that part of myself. And so getting married made it much clearer to me, and I came out to my wife very early on in our marriage, and her response was, well, we can overcome this together. And eventually I had a complete change in belief system, and with that I also had to address my sexual identity, and we stayed married for 5 years. During that time we had 2 boys. And yeah, eventually we decided it would be best for us to divorce, and we had an amicable divorce, thankfully, and we have a good working relationship now. But yeah, that's how the boys came into the picture. Probably the most common question we get from people on social media is, did you have your kids via adoption or surrogacy? Yeah. We're like,
None.
Neither.
Yeah.
Made them the old-fashioned way.
That's what makes your story so unique, right? Because you have this really unique family dynamic that a lot of gay couples don't have.
Yeah.
Because they do surrogacy or adoption in that sense. So, Devon, when you came out to your wife, I mean, coming out to your family is hard enough, but to your wife, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that's like. All of the things that you're already questioning about yourself, and then to say this to somebody that you have this whole life with.
Right.
How were you able to get the courage to do that and to be who you really needed to be?
It was hard. It was really hard to do, but I just knew that, well, at the time it wasn't a this is ending sort of thing. It was, I genuinely wanted to be transparent with her and work through this together. And it was something that we discussed, and so much through our marriage, it was just, we were always talking about my problem. And to look at my identity as a problem is just problematic. It's not a healthy way of looking at yourself. And I realized that in order to be truly happy and healthy and fulfilled and not think of myself as a sick person, we both needed to move on.
And now living in Utah, there's a lot of, obviously, that's where, the Mecca for people who are Mormon live.
Yep.
What is it like for the both of you as a couple living there? I know, Rob, you were saying it's not as bad in the city itself.
Right.
But what about when you leave that little cocoon that you have, right? It's like living here in New York City. Yeah. Once you go outside, it's totally different.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting. We talk about this often, about how when we're close to home, downtown Salt Lake City, I don't think twice about holding his hand or public displays of affection type stuff. But as
we
soon
get
as
cheers
we get
from people.
Which is odd, but
they're like, it's a very open-minded, very supportive community.
That's awesome.
But as soon as we get into the suburbs, there's always back of your mind, subconscious
checking of yourself.
Yeah,
is it okay?
Looking around, is it okay?
Am I safe?
And kind of thing. A subconscious thing that I think you develop.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, the good people of Utah are so naive that they think we're brothers, which we do look a lot alike. I'll give them that. But we get so many times, especially when we're out with the boys, people ask us oh, are you giving your wives a break, from the kids? We're like, no.
Where's mom?
No. Not giving them a break. We're just being dads.
No, the other day we were at a restaurant, or I guess it was a few months ago now. We were at a restaurant and I was in the restroom, and the waiter's so are we waiting on mom or something like that?
Oh, he came up to me. You were in the bathroom.
Yeah,
He came
yeah.
up to me. He's like, "Oh, are we waiting on your wife?" I'm like, "Yep, here he comes."
What did they say when you said
He was
that?
like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It's fine.
Like
Like,
you obviously like live in the default, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I
you're
wasn't
thinking-
offended. It was just,
It's good to shock people sometimes.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
my
right?
favorite.
yeah,
It really
especially
is.
in small town Utah, we love it.
What about your sons? How has this affected them? Has it affected them at all? Did they know that they have this unique family dynamic?
They were quite young when we divorced. Thankfully, I feel like divorce can really hurt. You know, I mean, it harms children either way. It's hard on them to be living with two different parents. But I feel like the younger they are, it has less of an impact. They don't really even remember what it was like to live with both of us. They've known Rob
Almost
like,
their entire
almost their
lives.
entire lives.
Wait,
Like,
how long have you guys been together?
we've been together
4 years.
4 years.
Okay, so yeah,
Um,
they were really young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the oldest was 3 and the youngest was 18 months. No, it was 3.5 and 2. But they adjusted well to the divorce. And when I started dating Rob, it wasn't like, I mean, they didn't have any concept of what gay was or anything like that.
Yeah,
And so
that's okay.
it wasn't a weird thing. And, you know, eventually as they got older, we explained to them what it means to be gay and why our family is different, why Dad lives with Rob. And I mean,
So we started dating in November, and so that December, I got gifts for the kids, and I got them a couple of children's books. And one of them, I was
Yeah.
doing research on finding a children's book that discussed our situation. And there was one that was surprisingly perfect called
Daddy's roommate.
Daddy's Roommate. and it talks about how, and it's like from a kid's perspective. He says, Mommy and Daddy got a divorce last year. Now Daddy lives with whatever his name is. I don't remember. It goes through this process of like, oh, Mom says that Dad's gay, and this is what that means, and
Yeah.
this is his new right, like that whole thing. So it was,
And being gay is just another form of love.
yeah,
is
it
what
was
Perfect.
shocking how perfect
Yeah.
the
It's a
book was.
perfect
Yeah.
book.
It was made in, I think it was published
the
in like the
70s,
late 80s.
80s, 70s.
And it's very like there's a lot of
No
tropes in there.
way.
Like the guy's got like the 80s
Really?
mustache, like the Magnum PI
Mustache?
mustache, and like there's a picture of them at the beach, and like the dads are in speedos, and I'm just like, okay, how many stereotypes can we have? They sing
I mean,
songs together.
I wear Speedos too, so.
Well, no, they're stereotypes for a reason, right?
When you travel as well, how is it like traveling as a couple? How does that affect the way you react and you interact with one another?
I mean, it all depends on where we are. If we're in West Hollywood,
Yeah.
we fit right
Or
in.
New York City,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not even gonna think twice about
No.
it.
If
but-
we're in other areas, like we went to North Carolina recently, we do find ourselves, just like when we're in the suburbs of Salt Lake, like checking ourselves.
Yeah, it's just interesting. And especially, I think, because we are so involved with the LGBT community and the content that we create focuses on.
It's directed mainly towards the LGBT community.
Yeah, exactly. So I think because of that, it's such a forefront of our minds at all times. I forget that is unfamiliar for people. You know what I mean? Because we are so ingrained
In that world,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, you're so open and loving to each other and to the family that you've created, that you have. It's just second nature. It's already what you have, you've created for yourself,
Right.
and it's what you chose to do with your life. I'm sure there's so many gays that just look to you and be like, I want that. I want to be not just your family, but be as open as you are with each other. And I'm sure you got a lot of men who are still not out, and
Oh,
they're
we do.
still
Yep.
trying to hide that about themselves, and they look at you as inspiration for that.
That's what we like to offer people. We get a lot of meaningful messages from people thanking us just for inspiring them to come out or inspiring them to be more open with the people in their lives about their relationships.
Yeah.
Or just inspiring them to create a family.
Yeah.
You know, they may not be able to have a family the same way we came about ours, but it gives them something to work towards.
Yeah, I think one of the most meaningful messages that I remember came from a mother of a gay son, actually. And she messaged us and just said, like, seeing you guys gives me hope because in mass media, oftentimes all you see are the tropes, right? You see the gays that are out partying and what. Not that there's anything wrong with go live your life.
We all need that in the beginning.
Yeah,
so.
but also like as a mother, she sees all the worst parts of it, and she's afraid of what that means for like my poor innocent little boy is going to go be corrupted or whatever. Again, not that I agree with that, but we I think we show that we balance our lifestyle in a way that like you can have a family and you can like
travel, and you can still do fun things.
There's not a single part of it that defines you in any one way, and showing a diversity of lifestyle. She basically just said like, seeing you gave me hope that
it just kind of calmed her and helped her see that her son can have a similar life to what we have, and that's what we want. We don't necessarily want people to try and copy our life path or anything like that, but if we can provide something aspirational to people, then I feel like we're lifting up the community. One of the most impactful messages we've ever gotten from someone, we have it as a highlight on our Instagram. We got a message from a young woman in Israel.
Yeah. And
she had been following our account, but was feeling very depressed because she didn't feel like she could be out and open in Israel. I don't know what area of Israel she was in, but it seemed like it was a very conservative community that was not welcoming to gay people. And she said that she got so down that she had everything in front of her one night ready to just end her life. Sorry, I get emotional talking about this, but she said that as she was kind of preparing for that, she got a notification that we had posted on Instagram, and like that just gave her hope.
Wow.
That like she had something to work towards. And so she messaged us telling us this, and I just like buckets of tears. Just
it's like 10:30 in the morning.
I know.
We're sitting in our desks at our separate works,
just sobbing.
Yeah. But that's the thing, that just living the life that you guys are doing and being who you are affects so many different people. And it's not just about the dynamic you created, but it's because of you as people and the courage that you have to be who you truly want to be. And you are not living in New York City. You are living in a state that it's not accepted. And you had the balls and the guts to do this and to be together because you wanted to find happiness and then you found each other. And that's the thing. And, that really resonates with so many different people. And sometimes you don't think about it in that way, right? And then you get a message like that from someone who they were at the lowest depths and you took them out of that. Not many people could say that. And you guys are able to. So you saved somebody's life. That's incredible, just for being who you are, for loving each other. That's amazing.
Yeah, stuff like that gives us so much meaning and purpose. Yeah, it is.
I wasn't expecting
I know.
It gives us a lot of meaning and purpose behind what we do, and that's why we're so passionate about it and so grateful that we can also make a living off of. And we're constantly inspired by our community, and they really buoy us up because if we're having a hard day and we post and we get such nice messages from people, or just hearing other people's inspirational stories and their examples of being brave in coming out. So we feel really lucky to be working in the space that we're in.
Yeah, for sure.
You're right. You do get paid to do what you love to do, and not many people can do that. So going back to your career, you both are still at your day jobs,
Correct.
right? So a lot of people think because you're so big on social media and you're making such a big impact that this is what you do full time, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Soon.
I mean, for two people to be able to offset their incomes, we have to work a little bit longer in our day jobs than maybe a single person. Both our jobs we have now, we actually have because of our social media presence.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My background is in landscape design. I am not currently doing that. I'm actually now doing marketing in the interior design industry. And I got my job because Rob's boss Rob's coworker actually knew my boss. And my boss was looking for someone that knew social media because he doesn't understand that whole world at all. And he knew that in order to reach a very important demographic, he needed to have a presence on there. So that's how I got my job.
And I run social media for a tech startup that's based out of Salt Lake City. And essentially, this is my resume, and I show them the phone.
That's literally what we both did.
You're done. You're hired. So how were you able to create income from the start doing this, right? And how do you continue to do that today?
We didn't set out to make money on our Instagram.
That was certainly
Yeah.
not
That was
intentional.
not. It was not until we had about 60, 70,000
Somewhere around
followers that a company reached out to us.
Yep.
Do you remember what our first one was?
It was a tooth whitening thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but it was one of the
It was a tooth whitening one, and it was like, here's $200, and we're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like a free tooth whitening kit for each of you and $200, and we're like, oh my god, we made it! Right. So that was the first one, and it was like shocking, honestly. Like people came because we would. Up till that point, we were getting DMs from people like, "Oh, this is so cute," or like, "Oh, your story's so inspiring," and then we get someone who's like, "Business proposition" or whatever. I'm like, "What do you what?" So
Like
then that
what?
was sort of
Proposition, that sounds
yeah,
like.
that was the first one. We've never looked back.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
been
only grown since.
Yeah,
then.
well, we eventually...
We don't do teeth whitening anymore.
It was not really
we
until we
haven't.
got an agent that we really started doing more paid work. It was about last year in June that we started doing more paid work because we saw the potential. We had companies reaching out to us. We're like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, they want us to sign contracts and stuff, and we don't know contracts. Well, you know a little bit. So we reached out. Rob reached out to this agency.
We actually had someone reach out to us originally, and they were like, "Hey, do you have representation for the stuff that you're doing on social media?" And I was like, "That's a thing." So I started doing some research, found a handful of larger agencies based off of a couple Google searches, which was actually really difficult to find like reputable representation anywhere. Emailed a bunch of them. Some of them got back to us, had a couple conversations, and the one that we gelled with the most, we signed with them. And
We were with them for a year, and it was a good way to kind of break us into the influencer world because they were able to walk us through everything. And our very first thing that we did was a paid trip to LA for LA Pride. We stayed in West Hollywood. Again, going with the stereotypes here, but it was fun. We were like, "Whoa, we're getting paid to stay in this really nice hotel that we would never be able to afford."
it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, we were talking about this, the other night. I was like, I still can't believe people pay us to do what we do.
Right.
Right? We get paid to do what we love, and like we really enjoy it, and that's why I think a lot of people don't understand. They're like, you get paid to do what? Doing what?
Yeah.
They pay you that?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they'll like go through it like, did you get paid for this? Yep. This. Yep. This. It's what we do. So.
No, we hung out with a good friend of Devon's last night, and we were texting, or we were DMing back and forth on Instagram from the dad's account. He was like, "Wait, you guys are in New York?" And we're like, "Yeah, we should hang out or whatever." And no, the first one was because I posted a photo of me at the gym. And he's like, "That's the gym that I go to." Like, I didn't know they had those in Utah. And I was like, "Nah, girl,
No.
we're in New York." And then he's like, "Oh my God, really? We have to see each other or whatever." So we're going back and forth. We're like, "Oh, we're doing XYZ. We're out in New Brunswick doing all these meetings
He's
and
like,
stuff."
"Wait, do you work for
Johnson
Johnson
Johnson?" I'm like, "No."
We're partnering with them.
Yeah,
It's
it's like, what does that even mean? Right? Like, and he's an accountant and works for like a Big Four accounting firm, and so like he's very like finance and traditional
career
idea.
path.
What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny when you get into those situations and get to talk to people and you're
Yeah.
like, this exists.
Yep.
Surprise.
You can make it happen
Yeah.
too.
We get
right?
paid to post selfies.
I say that.
Beautiful
I say that
selfie.
all the time. I'm a professional selfie taker. Obviously, there's much more to it than
Last
that.
night at a restaurant, someone asked me to take a photo of her for Instagram, and she's like, "Oh, that's so good." I'm like, "Thanks, I'm a professional." She's like, "Oh, a photographer?" I'm like, "No,
No.
Instagrammer." And she was probably just
Professional
like,
selfie taker. So let's fast forward to 50 years from now, and you're looking back at your life. What legacy do you want to leave, and what do you want to be remembered for?
"Oh, I love that question."
That's a good question. And I want to be remembered as someone who provided, in more than just financially, but someone who provided happy memories for our kids and provided emotional support when they need it, or like my siblings or my parents or whatever. I would say a provider across the board.
I want my kids to see me as someone who is there for them. I may not always physically be able to be there for them, but I want them to see that I'm always emotionally there for them and supporting them and cheering them on. and offering anything from my own life advice to them, or fun activities, or just learning experiences for them. I just want the world for them, as a parent. Going through my divorce, I thought a lot about this as far as like when I died, what kind of legacy do I want to leave to them? And it was that, do I want them to see me as someone who kind of sacrificed myself and my identity in order to conform to a certain expectation, societal or familial expectation? Or do I want them to see me as someone who, while it was hard, they bravely lived their life, as their true self and with authenticity? And there's positives and negatives to both. I felt like it was, for me, the most impact I could have on my kids would be to live my true self and to allow them to, whoever they may be one day, to feel like they can be themselves too and be honest with themselves and others about who they are.
And I think beyond just our own family circles, like as far as the broader audience as well, I feel the same way about wanting to be generous with my time, with my willingness to share my story, and to help other people see that they can live their truth.
Already created such a huge impact on people, as we've heard from all of those stories that they're sending you and what you've created already in your community that you're creating. So that's amazing. You can pat yourselves in the back for that.
You're so nice.
So let's get to some fun questions.
Yeah.
Some people, like myself, I nerd out on interviewing inspiring people like you and hiking. What about you both? What do you nerd out on?
I'm
Plants.
I'm a plant and a tech nerd. I obsess over cell phones. Well,
it's a very important part of our job.
No, like I'm constantly
It
staring
is.
at one, and I used to have a Google Pixel, and it would like tell me about itself, and I just found it so fascinating, like learning about phones, and so now that's one thing I definitely nerd out on is when's the next phone coming out, and plants.
Last time we were in New York, we're walking through Central Park, and he's like, "Oh, that's blah 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 Latin name for a tree."
Coloratura paniculata.
And
that's legit.
Yeah. No, and every time he says it, I'm like, that's just a string of sounds. Those aren't actual words. It's like, no, it's real.
Samiafolia.
Oh my God, look, Devon is looking at all of the plants
labeling
right
all the
now.
plants that are around
Labeling
us.
it.
What do I nerd out about? You tell me.
Gay culture.
That's true.
Pop culture. Gay pop culture.
Yeah, gay pop culture in particular. Running social media for a tech company as well as doing the social media that we do, I feel obligated, as well as just have a passion for seeing what trending videos, images, content, varieties, like different things like that. And so pop culture, particularly around like, I'm a big RuPaul's Drag Race fan.
But I mean, in addition to that, we live in Utah. It's gorgeous. So we love hiking.
Stuff, yeah.
There's a lot of outdoor activities. I love camping. Rob is an avid indoorsman.
Endorsement.
Showers are important to me.
You need to do glamping.
We do.
We have.
Yes.
That's the only thing you could do, right?
That
together?
was the best compromise for us because I got my camping fix and you got to sleep in a bed and shower.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sleep in a bed and have a shower.
Not at the same time.
Don't sleep
At
in
the
the shower.
same time. Hey, whatever floats your boat.
That sounds like a really good idea. A shower bed.
Shower bed.
I think that sounds like a terrible idea.
Could be a water bed, but like the water's outside the bed as well.
All right, take it to Shark Tank. Try it out.
Hey, David was here,
Yeah,
so you could do it. I think he's going to be there later on today,
Oh, that's
too.
true, yeah.
Having traveled to so many different places, what has been the most significant meeting with an individual that has ever happened to you?
We're travel bloggers, but we're not like traditional travel bloggers because we pretty much stay domestic.
I wouldn't necessarily call us travel bloggers. I feel like.
Well, that's why I put it in quotation marks.
quotation?
Well, they can't see
Okay,
that.
in quote,
This is a
travel marker.
podcast.
Travel bloggers.
We're used to visual content.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
You can't see all of my wild
I
gestures that are happening.
That's a good question. I mean, I think anytime we get the chance to meet other influencers on trips like this, it's always really, I have a severe case of imposter syndrome every time I come to one of these things, because I'm like, I'm sorry, you do what? And you and
oh, you're a humanitarian in Africa. Oh, and you give free haircuts to people, homeless people in New York.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark is amazing. And
it's like
hearing
okay.
hearing the opportunities that people have, and traveling to Fashion Week and like the fun, glamorous stuff, but also how everyone seems to take their responsibility so seriously because they have a platform to use it for good. Like I see the passion that people have for the quote unquote fun stuff, the fashion and the beauty and the travel and the whatever it is.
I just found through travel because, well, back in my early 20s as a Mormon missionary in Trinidad, and you traveled in Croatia for your mission, so you probably have a similar experience. But just getting out of my community I was born in exposed me to so many different people, and the Caribbean is very diverse. It's just a melting pot of cultures and peoples and really good food. But
yes,
and Nicki Minaj.
Being exposed, yes, the land of Nicki Minaj. I was not exposed to Nicki Minaj as a missionary, though. But just being exposed to different people who think differently than you and see the world differently than you.
Totally.
I grew up pretty isolated in rural Idaho, in a very conservative area in which most people had the same beliefs as me. And so I just love that travel challenges your beliefs and expands your views and allows you to be more empathetic to other people.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for me when we end up traveling. But as far as like who we've met, I think that seeing other people, what they're doing, because of having that, like, not a lot of people get it. And so when you get to talk to people who get it and are doing it and doing it really well,
it's even more inspiring,
really inspiring,
right?
Yeah.
And it inspires you to do more with your platform and as an individual as well. So if our listeners want to know more about you, where can they find you?
You can find us on Instagram at Dads Not Daddies or youtube.com/dadsnotdaddies.
Or if you'd like Facebook, you can do that too. We don't post a lot on Facebook, but we're there.
We have a Twitter, etc.
Oh yeah.
We have a website.
But primarily, if you want to engage with us, Instagram,
one.
yeah, and YouTube.
YouTube as well. Yeah.
We're growing a platform on YouTube. We're growing a following on YouTube.
Yeah, and they're beautiful, so you have to look at that.
It's the children. They're beautiful.
Yeah, and they show their abs, so you have to see. Go on Instagram.
Don't go for the abs.
Swimsuit season's over. Thank God. I can eat again.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate this, and I'm learning so much from both of you and all of the experience you've had and what you've done with it. You chose to live this life, and it's so impactful for all of us to really see it. So thank you, Devon and Rob, for
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to share our story any chance that we can. Obviously, we're really good about talking about ourselves. I mean, and it's your podcast, so we'll talk about ourselves, but would love to chat more, and get to know you better. So.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this interview with Rob and Devon. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get more killer resources. Hey Offbeat family, I really appreciate you listening to this episode. I would love to hear more from you and what you think of the podcast. Suggestions on guests, topics we can discuss, or maybe you just want to be friends. Why don't we chat some more on Facebook at The OB Life, or send me a message at hello@theoffbeatlife.com. I can't wait to hear from you.